welcome everyone. My name is Aaron Darko, and we are starting off this show with my good friend, my coach, my jiu-jitsu master, Mr. Justin Sidelle.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thanks.
So just a little background about Justin, just so you guys know that this guy is an absolute legend. So he's been training jiu-jitsu for 16 years. He's been a black belt for 6 years, and he's just started a school here in Bali called Rituals Jiu Jitsu, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, he's been around the block with jiu-jitsu. Like, he's been competing in competitions for 12 years.
Yeah.
12 years. And he's been, you know, teaching at several schools around the world. And he also has many highly successful students. And I'm one of those people, I'm proud to say.
Hey.
So this talk today is really going to be about an insight into what it's like to train jiu-jitsu and, you know, what it's like to train jiu-jitsu as an adult, and also the effects that has on your social life and the relationships that you can build and just your character building, right? So we're going to get a little insight into that, and of course, like, learn more about jiu-jitsu itself, because there's a lot of people right now, Justin, who are, you know, on the fence about training jiu-jitsu because, you know, they watch UFC, but they're scared of getting injured, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, first off, for those of people that are watching, like, what is jiu-jitsu in your explanation?
Okay. Jiu-jitsu is a martial art. It's great for self-defense, and it's also like kind of has evolved into like a sport as well. It's just like jiu-jitsu's a form of wrestling. You're just kind of come in and learn some skills about like trying to protect yourself or like hold someone down that's attacking you, and with that comes submission holds. Submission holds are like kind of like the icing on the cake of jiu-jitsu, right? So you start to learn things like arm bars and choke holds and all these sort of things that you can use to like. We would say is a more safe way to like apprehend your opponent, right? So like in the sense that maybe I'm the sort of person where if I got into a fight, I don't see myself as like knocking you out, but maybe if I get into a fight, I see myself as the sort of person where I can hold you down. I'm going to hold you down so you don't hurt anyone. Or I'm the sort of person where maybe it's escalated a little bit and I'm going to hold you down and I'm going to choke you unconscious, which sounds crazy, but the truth is you'll wake up from it and you won't be injured. Whereas if maybe I come in and I start like kicking and punching you, I might, you know, give you a serious concussion, or I might like, you know, break your jaw or break your nose or something like this. These kind of things that happen that are less likely to happen when you use a more gentle art like jiu-jitsu, you know? So I kind of need to look at myself also, like if I'm going to learn to defend myself, what is going to be the best form of self-defense for me? And for me, it's a less violent practice in that sense. Violent for me is like more like emotionally charged, like something happening that creates that sort of violence. I can control a violent situation with something like jiu-jitsu logically and kind of use that approach to nullify that situation where nobody gets hurt in the end. And then that's something that's really powerful about it. In addition to that, though, you know, there's joint locks and stuff. So, you know, we're doing shoulder locks, arm bars, all this sort of stuff. If you've ever seen UFC, it's like the same submission holds you see in the UFC, and they're highly effective, which, you know, makes it so beneficial for your own safety, for your own self-defense, which is one of the cool things about it.
Yeah, and that adds, actually, so Justin and I met at a dinner, and one of our mutual friends who's now training. But the funny thing is, he wasn't training at the time, Mike. He introduced me to you, and I never trained. I trained 5 years prior, twice in Thailand at the same gym you trained at, actually. Maybe you were on the mat at the same time as me, I don't know.
It's possible.
But yeah, I just made excuses for 5 years of why I was not going to train. And then when I saw you again in Nirvana, I was reminded of, oh shit, that was that guy that I met at dinner who was a jiu-jitsu coach, and he's starting a gym in my gym. And I just wanted to avoid you at all costs.
Yep, I remember.
Because I knew you would try and get me to go and train, because I had met you at a dinner and we were talking about it. And then one day I had a dream, and in the dream, someone was getting choked out in the airport, and I was a bystander and I couldn't do anything because I didn't know how to do jiu-jitsu. And that I woke up from that dream, and then the next day I saw you in the evening and in the gym and lobby, and then you were like, "What are you doing tomorrow at 9 a.m.?" I was like, nothing. And then you just said, "Hey, come to jiu-jitsu," and that was it. That was my introduction to it. And for me, most of the time, it's about self-defense. Like that's what got me into it. So what you're saying there is right on point with my values in terms of why I train. But let's move on to people watching. They're like, all right, so jiu-jitsu is that, but is that the best? Is that the most efficient? You know, like we just covered Muay Thai and other stuff. Would you say that's the most efficient, or is it just a mixture?
I think it's kind of like martial arts is what you're attracted to. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, I'm someone that's done martial arts my whole life. I've done martial arts since I was 5. Mm-hmm. You know, so like, I've practiced a lot of different martial arts at different stages in my life. And again, it's kind of like, what are you being pulled to? And that's what I suggest people look into a little bit more, because like, whereas jiu-jitsu kind of came perfectly for me, it didn't how I found it. It wasn't like I was necessarily like really seeking jiu-jitsu, but when I started practicing it, that's what caught me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think all martial arts are great. Like if you want to go practice Muay Thai, I love Muay Thai. I still practice Muay Thai, you know? And if that's what you're being pulled to, go try it. But don't close your mind to trying other martial arts too. You know, you got to keep that open mind when you're trying something new for the first time, you know? Yeah. And especially if it's kind of like pertaining to self-defense, because you might go and try Muay Thai or try boxing or whatever, you know? And you might be turned off to it, you know? Like in your head, it seemed like a great idea, and now you're closing the door on all martial art practice for yourself. Mm-hmm. And I think that would be a mistake. It's like if part of you is telling you, I want to learn to defend myself, or I want to get involved with something more exciting like a sport like this, I wouldn't close my door just on the first thing that I tried. I'd go try a couple things, you know?
Right.
So, yeah. And like for me, I found jiu-jitsu and I got the bug right away. I was hooked, you know, it's exciting. It's fun. I think everyone should do it.
Mm, yeah. So on that note, what have been like the biggest life or character changes that you've experienced in your personal journey training jiu-jitsu? Like how has it changed you?
That's a good question. It's hard because I've done it for so long, you know what I mean? So it's like a lot of the changes are kind of like slow, gradual changes. I think one of the things that like stood out right away for me is like I was willing to sacrifice more things in my life to continue practicing jiu-jitsu. And that's kind of like some of the things that started to like shape and mold me in a different direction, you know? You know, what other people were doing on the weekends and stuff like that became less interesting to me. You know, like I wanted to go train, or like when I started to get involved with competitions, you know, it's like I realized I needed to do more if I wanted to get the reward I was after. You know, like I think it was one of the first things in my life where like I had to work really hard to get the reward I was chasing. You know what I mean? Like the effort for the reward was high. You know, like I had to put a lot of effort into it. So it started shaping my work ethic. So I think if there's like one thing early on that jiu-jitsu did is it shaped that work ethic. Because it didn't, I was already pretty athletic at the time. I was still young. I was like, not that I'm not young now, but you know what I mean? I was probably like 21 when I started jiu-jitsu or whatever, 21. So I was already athletic. I'm a big guy, but all these people in the room were just smashing me. You know what I mean? And it didn't matter how athletic I was or how strong that I was. I needed to learn how jiu-jitsu worked if I wanted to be able to hang in the sport, you know? So it changed my work ethic, and I had to start listening more, you know, and I had to be more open-minded to what other people were doing. Later, it turned into other things too, is like not comparing myself to others. I think that's like a really common one that comes up for people. They get really caught up in comparing themselves to other people, and they'll be like, well, Aaron's getting so much better faster than me. Why am I not improving?
Yep.
And a lot of people get caught in that and then get discouraged and quit, you know? But I don't know what it was. There was something about jiu-jitsu. Like the second I got on board, I was in it. You know what I mean? I knew I was going to get my black belt. I knew I was going to be in for the long haul. So despite any discouraging moments that kind of came up, it still kept getting me to push through. Yeah, I think that was probably like one of the biggest ones, is like shaping my work ethic, you know?
Yeah. And so you mentioned there about work ethic and comparing yourself to others.
Yeah.
So did you experience any of that yourself, like comparing yourself to others?
Oh, absolutely. I think the most I experienced that was probably like a purple belt. So like if you don't know anything about jiu-jitsu, it's probably like one of the longest martial arts you're going to practice to get a black belt. Like no other martial art takes this much time and investment to get to that like black belt level, whatever that is, you know? Average for jiu-jitsu is 8 to 10 years, right? To get your black belt. So I remember and also I was competing, and like the standard for a competitor in jiu-jitsu is higher than like the regular practitioner. There's more expectations put on us, mostly from within, right? Like I put those expectations on me that I need to perform and reach a certain level of excellence. And I was surrounded by really high level athletes. So all I saw was this high level of excellence. So for me, it was always reaching for that level of excellence. And it was tough, because sometimes I'd go compete and I wouldn't perform well and they'd be killing it. I'm like, so why am I coming up short? And it would like do my head in, and it would be really discouraging. Or even in the gym, like I'd have like a couple good rounds of sparring and then I'd come across somebody that just was a lot better than me. And it was such a hard pill for me to swallow. This is where like I started to learn to check my ego more and stuff like that, because it would be such a bruise to my ego. And then I'd have to like manage my ego after, I think that was like a lesson that I didn't really start to learn to like check my ego more in those situations until like much later in jiu-jitsu, and yeah, it's like still ongoing practice. You always just got to kind of check your ego in the room and switch your mindset. Like I think when I was young, I went in with this mindset that I had to be this like warrior on the mat all the time. And it wasn't until like much later that I switched the mindset from being a warrior to being more of a scientist. So like now when I get on the mat, for me, it's about exploration. How does this work? Why is this happening? I started letting go of my competitor mindset and looking at it from that scientific approach, just being like, well, what's going on here? Why do I keep getting caught in these positions? Or why do I keep coming up short in sparring against this person? And I started to analyze my own part in it more and my own movements and all that. And I think when I took that more scientific approach to jiu-jitsu, took the value out of the positions a little bit and just did it for the self-improvement to make my own self better, and then started to measure my own growth. That was something that really helped me get better. Step further from that is applying that outside the mat too, right? Like, because I think that's really easy in like day-to-day life to get like caught up comparing yourself to others. Like you want to start something new, or you're starting something and it's like slow to get the ball rolling on it. It's super discouraging sometimes when you compare yourself to others, especially if they have more experience than you, or further along on their journey, whatever it is, And I think the more I remember that I'm on my own path and I'm doing the right things and I'm doing this with a mindset to explore and like just see what's going on, I think that helps me like in my day-to-day life all the time, and I try to, really keep that mindset on and off the mats.
Absolutely. I definitely resonate with that, because you're basically describing me too. That's like the mindset that you need, right? And what shifted it from you comparing yourself to others and having that ego is just a little perspective shift, like you said, like taking a scientific approach instead of like, I got to win all the time. I got to win every time.
Yeah.
And that's like, people do that outside of the mats too, like in their daily life, like everything they do, they have to win. Like, I need to win, I need to crush this. And when it doesn't happen, it's like, oh shit, I'm a failure. Like all the negative self-talk starts happening.
Yeah.
And then that's in jiu-jitsu, that's when people start quitting, right? Like you said.
Right. And it's like, you got like, and a lot of that is ego inflation, right? Like bigger the ego, the lower the self-esteem. So if I get crushed after a tournament and I literally like fall to pieces, maybe I need to look at my ego a little bit and like how I'm looking, like how I'm acting in my day-to-day life and stuff like that. And like, I understand from the competitor's perspective, because they're putting like all their eggs in one basket a lot of the time. So this is their life. So losing a tournament, it hits really hard and hits close to home. But also it's that adversity as part of like what we learned in jiu-jitsu, is that we can get hit that hard, but I can still get back up. You know what I mean? So even if I feel like jiu-jitsu is kind of different. Like you lose a jiu-jitsu match, it doesn't necessarily hurt. Like I'm not physically hurt. I feel a little beat up. We just had a rough roll and stuff like that. Higher levels, there's a chance. Might get my arm broken, might break some ribs. It gets a little bit crazier the deeper you get into it. But like first couple years especially, it's all psychological. So you get beat and you get hit hard home because that person just crushed you. You put in all this work, they outsmarted you, and they just exposed your weakness in that moment, So that can be quite a hard pill for people to swallow. And it's like, you have a choice in that moment. Do I walk away? Do I give up now? Or do I pick myself back up, dust myself off, make the changes I need to make, and then go out there and try it again? And I need to know if I'm going to overcome that adversity and come out the other side a stronger, better person. And I think like when you're young, especially when you're competing in sports, those hits are very heavy. But like I think I have the self-confidence in knowing myself now that regardless if I win or lose on the mats, it doesn't change who I am as a person. You know what I mean? I know myself, and I know I'm being true to myself by practicing jiu-jitsu because of how it's molded me and shaped me and the life it's given me. You know, so like no amount of winning or losing is going to change who I am at this point. You know,
Right.
like I'm happy with my life.
So before you started training jiu-jitsu, and for everyone watching, like this is related to life. Like this is why Justin's here, because for me personally, like when I started training, I saw so many parallels between jiu-jitsu and like my life and how my life was being lived. Like it's all on the mat. Like you said, you can read someone like a book when you see them fight.
Yeah.
And so like actually it'd be insightful for people to understand what you have observed of me and my habits on the mats.
Right. Aaron's habits on the mat. It's kind of funny, right? Because like you're right, like jiu-jitsu doesn't lie. You know, anything about you that you're feeling, it shows in your performance, you know? So I can tell when you're nervous. I can tell when you didn't sleep well. I can tell when you've been working too much and your head's not in it. You know, like I can see all those little things in you on the mat. You know what I mean? And sometimes it's just as simple as like telling you to relax or to remember to keep your arms in or something like that. Just small like coaching details. Sometimes I'm experimenting with you too. So it's like I might put a bunch of pressure on you and put you in a position where you got to perform in front of a bunch of people. And I want to see if you like I'll do a stress test to see if you can it's going to make or break you, you know. And then I watch and kind of see how you perform from there. And this is just like something I've done and has been done to me the entire time I've practiced jiu-jitsu because I think it helps shape the person, you know, and it helps give me insight to like how they are. Like I know a lot about you just in your demeanor because you're still kind to your sparring partners. You're still careful with them. You never try to hurt anyone. You know, like that side of your character shows through. It's like I never have to worry about like putting Aaron with a beginner and worry about Aaron hurting them. You know what I mean? But that's your character. That's like who you are as a person. And right. That's what comes out when you grapple. And that's a great thing, you know? But that doesn't mean you can't throw down. You know what I mean? Like when Aaron's got to turn it up, he'll turn it up for sure.
Right.
But like those character traits are also kind of how you fight. And it's a really interesting thing about jiu-jitsu. You know, it's like so much of your character comes out. So that's why I always say like jiu-jitsu doesn't lie.
Yeah. Yeah. So adding to that though, let's talk about the effect of jiu-jitsu on kids, because there's some parents watching, and then I have a brother who's 6 years old, and I'm telling my dad like, hey, you got to get him involved in jiu-jitsu. So from your perspective, because you started a kids program here in Bali, 6 to 14 years old. Anyone who's 6 to 14 years old, I definitely recommend.
Bring me your kids. Let's do it. I love kids. Yeah. Okay, look, I've had two experiences. One as a kid growing up doing martial arts, because again, I started martial arts when I was 5. So I had that experience. And then I also had the experience of like teaching kids when I was older, you know? Like growing up doing martial arts was great. Again, like it got me excited about martial arts. It was a healthy outlet. I had a good support group. I had a community around me. This is what I remember growing up in a martial arts school. I could not wait to get to class. You know what I mean? So it was probably the best part of my day is going to martial arts as a kid, you know? And I loved it. As I got older, I kind of like drifted from it a little bit more. But when I came back to it again, like, you know, I was back in, but again, differently as an adult. But anyways, like keeping it on the kids. We started a kids program at a school that I was working at. And it was tough. In the beginning, it was tough, like working with all the kids and stuff, you know? I had a lot to learn about kids. And I think the biggest mistake I learned about working with kids is not seeing them as people. I saw them as kids. And when I started to realize like kids are just little people and you got to talk to them the same way you're going to talk to anyone else, it really changed my perspective. I had a really great mentor. His name was Matt Smith. And he told me one piece of information that was like so imperative to my growth with teaching kids, which is every child wants to make you happy. You just have to let them know how. So with that, I started to learn with communicating my expectations to kids. And once I started doing that, it made me much easier to shape them into martial artists. And then with that came structure, right? Like I had a really structured program for those kids to run. And again, like my coach at the time, Dave Camarillo was an amazing jiu-jitsu coach. was so methodical in his programming that he had like everything so lined up for us that I could just kind of sit there and run this program and we just watched these kids grow. And it was amazing. Like I'd never seen kids so disciplined. I'd never seen kids, such good students in class. Like there were better students in our jiu-jitsu class than they were in school. I'll tell you that right now. Like their behavior was great. You know, like I didn't realize you could get a group of kids that young together and not have them like screaming at the top of their lungs the whole time. Not to say that they're not having fun, but they were really well behaved. So they're having fun and being well behaved, and that blew my mind. You know, I was like, I'm like, wow, that's such a different, so different than like some of my experiences where like we were pretty well behaved when I was kids too, but this was like on another level. But here was the crazier thing. We would have these kids go do tournaments, right? In California, jiu-jitsu tournaments are huge. They're every weekend, thousands of people. These kids go out, they get one chance, right? They go out, they do their best. If they lose that match, it's done. You know, they got to come back and do another one, you know? So it's like hard lessons for these kids at a young age, right? Mm-hmm. And it's those lessons of overcoming adversity. Like I got to go out there. It's going to be really stressful. My coach is standing there. My parents are standing there. My mom's freaking out. My dad's going crazy, you know, like, and now I got to go wrestle this kid standing across from me. Like that's super stressful, right? And then they go out and they perform. And if, let's say they fall short, that kid's got to now pick himself up and know, man, I just disappointed my coach, my mom, my dad. Like I just disappointed my team. All my friends are watching and I just lost, you know? And I think for those kids, it's like really heavy, you know? So they get knocked down, emotionally knocked down, right? But now here's the cool thing. They're surrounded by a support group of people that want to see them get back up and get stronger and better. And that's really cool. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Like putting your kids in an environment where it's safe for them to fall down and having support to get them back up. That's cool. You know, that's super powerful. Like that's the environment I want my kids growing up in. I want to know my kids can fail and get back up. Because as they get older, we want to know that they can take the hits of life. Mm-hmm. You know, that's the powerful stuff.
Yeah.
You
Absolutely.
know? Yeah. So like, that's what you take away from martial arts. That's why I put my kids in jiu-jitsu. I want to know that they're going to carry themselves through life and be okay, that they're going to be confident enough to take risks. Even when they fall short, they'll get back on their feet and get back on it, you know?
Mm. So it's almost like you would put your kids through jiu-jitsu so they can become a better person.
100%.
Right.
Yeah.
So for you, it's not about, my kid needs to learn how to defend himself physically. Like it's more about character development.
100%. Yeah. And I think like you see a lot, like as we kind of talk here, like a lot of this is all just character development stuff like that's the way I really like to look at jiu-jitsu anyways, you know? I want to see people come out the other side of jiu-jitsu being better people or like some sort of self-improvement in their life. The jiu-jitsu is just like the vehicle that takes us there, you know?
Ah, I see. Oh, that's a really cool insight. I mean,
Yeah.
we've been friends for a while. I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah, that's how I view it as well. That's actually why you're here. I view it as that exactly. Like it's a vehicle to improve yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like self-development. That's actually recently Mike Chang. He's like he used to have like millions of followers on YouTube, six-pack abs guy, and he started training with us. And it's very fascinating for me to see Mike start training because he's always been asking me questions, and he's always been interested into my insights into why I train.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what you just said, like character development, self-awareness, you know, building confidence. And these are the things that I feel like attract. My next question was like attracting like a certain type of person who trains jiu-jitsu. So for example, now here at Rituals, a lot of us are like into self-development, we're into marketing and just like improving ourselves. And it's interesting to see like that group form and it's attracting people that value growth. Yeah.
Wait, I have to touch on one thing though. The analogy of using the vehicle I stole from Joe Rogan, so no fronts. I gotta give Joe Rogan credit where it's due. But you're 100% right. And you know what that is? It's community building. Like I want to build a community around me that cares about self-growth. You know, like, and that's what's important for me.
Yeah.
And I think when you start to build a community, it attracts more like-minded people, and that's the kind of the goal. And the beautiful thing will be it'll attract people that want that in themselves. So like maybe we get people coming in that aren't that self-confident, or you know aren't used to actually trying to grow as a person and are going through like a rough patch in their life or something like that. They're going to walk right into a community that cares. You know, and I think that's really important. I think that's kind of the community we're already starting to find at Rituals. It's a community that cares. You know, we care about the new people coming in. We're just not throwing you in class and ignoring you. Like, we're looking out for you, making sure that there's other people around you trying to help you get through. Like, I think a lot of people come in and they just think they're getting a coach, but what they're getting is they're getting a team. You're getting a team of people around you trying to help you get better, you know, and that's a culture we're really trying to cultivate on the mats. That team mentality that you're not in it alone. And again, we're talking about that kid falling down, losing that match. He's just not getting back up by himself. He has a team of people helping him get back up. And, you know, that kind of just shows that, like, it's okay to, you know, lean on others for support when you need it. It's okay to, like, you know, reach out when you need help. All these sort of, like, early lessons early on. You need, and then also, like, be comfortable enough with yourself to be honest and being like, I need help with this or that, you know. And people find that on the mats, and it's a really beautiful thing. Yeah,
it's super valuable for someone, especially, I mean, if someone's watching and they're, you know, going through a rough patch or they're feeling alone in life. I mean, jiu-jitsu's, it's very intimidating at first, which is why most people don't try it, right? Like, it's so intimidating to think of putting on those pajamas, you know, going on the mats. But it's actually probably what I'd argue, like, it's one of the things that a lot of people need. You know?
Yeah.
I didn't know how much jiu-jitsu would have impacted my life. Like, I thought it was just, you know, learning martial art, you know, that was it. But actually there's way more depth to it. Like, the community aspect is huge. Like you said earlier about how jiu-jitsu was like the best part of your day as a kid. Like, that is actually true for me too. You know, like, it's not just learning from you, you're an awesome coach, but it's the community, the people that I'm hanging out with whilst I'm learning, like all my friends, all the people that I like hanging out with anyways, they're on the mats, you know? And that I don't feel like I'm alone, even though it's a single person sport. Like, when you're competing, it's you versus the other guy or a girl, but you know, when you're training, it's like you don't feel like you're alone. It's like a community, and that really helps your life off the mats too. Like, you're doing a good job of building community and taking us on trips, and I think that really helps to form a better bond on the mats and off the mats.
Right. And let's take it a step further, right? So you're right. Like, you've gotten this experience in the gym. I mean, as COVID, we don't have competitions now and stuff like that. Imagine that same sensation in a more stressful environment. Competing. Like, imagine the trust that builds with your team. You know, like, that's taking it to another level. You know what I mean? It's like, so like, jiu-jitsu is like, it's always kind of the stress test, right? Like, we see how much stress we can handle. We're trying to, like, test your ability to overcome adversity through situations and stuff like that. And then when you finally get used to one, we bump it up another level. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's why I always, like, really stress for people to go out and compete in jiu-jitsu. Because it's like adding a whole nother dimension and a whole nother level to it, you know? I don't think, like, to practice jiu-jitsu you have to compete, but I think everyone should get a taste for it. You know what I mean? Because again, it just changes your perspective on, like, it's like magnifying what you're getting already. It's you know, it's a multiplier. It's just gonna get better because you're adding this element to it.
Yeah, as you say that, I'm thinking of this one phrase that most people say to me.
Yeah.
I'm a lover, not a fighter, Justin. I don't want to go and fight that guy in a competition. I'm a lover, not a fighter. So, I mean, that's how I believe that too. Like, but what would you say to that person who's like, they don't like fighting? Fighting is not even they don't even think about it.
So, like, first I would say is you've watched too much TV, because like, it's a grappling match, right? First, we got to call it what it is. It's a grappling match. It's not a fight. You want to fight, you go do MMA. You want to fight, you go do Muay Thai. Like, yeah, in a poetic sense, jiu-jitsu is a fight, but it's a grappling match at the end of the day. You're going in, you're wrestling that person. You're going to work as hard as you can through that moment. Yeah, it's intense and it's violent and all this stuff, but at the end of the day, I say it's a grappling match, right? I also would hate to be that lover in that situation where I didn't have a choice. Now, let's say I am, like, I mean, this is kind of like the extreme, right? Where I end up in a situation where I don't have a choice and I have to defend myself. I want to walk through life with that sort of confidence. You know what I mean? Knowing that if something happens and I need to defend myself, and I'll be ready for it, at least on some level. It's not saying I'm going to win that fight. We see a lot of people all the time. I mean, all you got to do is go on YouTube and watch jiu-jitsu go wrong or something like that where it comes up short. But at least I want to walk through life with that confidence, knowing that I at least have that part of myself, you know? So yeah, I don't want to turn that over to another person. I don't want to turn that power over to another person. You know, I don't want to walk through life in fear, worrying about that. You know, and honestly, like I haven't had too many experiences like that. You know, so it's good. You know, and again, it's just that ability to face adversity. I'm happy I get to carry that with me.
Absolutely.
And I think that's great. Like if you just find yourself a more peaceful, loving person, none of this attracts you. You're just like a soft, gentle person. That's fine. Be yourself, you know, but you might find that part of yourself inside you. And maybe it's just something you haven't explored yet. So maybe you're scared to explore that side of yourself. You know what I mean?
Very true.
Like we actually just had someone come in recently who's just like a very like kind, gentle person. And now they're getting to explore that like aggressive nature that they have, that they've been like turned away from their whole life, you know? And it's like now like a new part of themselves kind of being revealed to them. So it's like, I would say keep an open mind, like just kind of see what happens when you go and try it. You know what I mean? Because if you're not even opening your mind enough to try it, maybe there's some other sort of fear that's keeping you out. Maybe it's not about being a lover and not a fighter. There's something else keeping you out, you know? So I would ask that person to look a little deeper.
That's amazing. And that adds to what I was going to say, like, because that fear is it's not just compartmentalized. It's not just in jiu-jitsu that they have that fear. There's a fear in other areas of their life too. And it's just showing up there, you know, like you're scared of other things too that you're not addressing, that you're not aware of because you're not attacking this one fear. And for me, that was the case, especially with like takedowns, for example. Like, so in jiu-jitsu, it's like Justin teaches wrestling also in the no-gi classes. And, you know, I realized for myself that I was scared to do a takedown. I was scared to go and take this guy down. And that fear was showing up in my life as well. Like I was scared to do things that I maybe might fail at, you know. And you told me something. You said, fail 1,000 times, you know. And that whole mindset is your mindset. It's like the black belt mindset, right? And for me, I've heard it before, of course, like, but I never really actioned it because I'm like, oh yeah, you need to fail more. But when it comes to it, like you actually need to fail. You actually need to try and get the takedown. And if you fail, get back up. That has really shifted my mindset. And I still battle with that. Like sometimes like I don't go for takedowns, but it's constantly like rewiring of my brain, like neural pathways. Like my relationship to fear has changed because of training jiu-jitsu.
Does this mean you're going to go to more no-gi, Aaron?
Yeah. I will. And so adding to your statement about, you know, you don't want to walk through life like not confident. I remember there was a quote, I'd rather be a warrior in a garden than be a gardener in a war. And that, I think Joe Rogan said that or someone else, but that quote really resonated with me. And that's kind of added what got me into training as well. It's like, I don't want to be that guy that doesn't know how to defend myself if that situation comes. But also adding to what you said earlier about, you know, it makes you more relaxed. Like, jiu-jitsu makes me more relaxed. So you're not going to get into fights because you're more relaxed, right? So you're not looking for that. Is that what you've experienced too?
Absolutely. Like, again, it's just that like, it's like an outlet to let out your aggression and stress. So when you leave that on the mat, you know, so when you come back out into the real world, the regular world, your day to day, you're just not as aggressive or stressed about anything. You know what I mean? It's a huge release for that. You know, so it's like that guy cuts you off on your bike in Bali, or, you know, like your Gojek's late and you're upset about it. You're not that upset, you know, it's much more manageable, you know, so it's like, it's good.
And that's something I see in humanity as well, like not to get esoteric or something, but like just in general, like a lot of men, because I used to be that guy. I used to, you know, road rage and all these kind of things. Little things would like trigger me. I get angry. And actually, when you have a healthy outlet for aggression, which every man I believe has, like you were saying earlier, some guys don't think that they have aggression, but everyone has aggression. You know, it's there, but like you said, just haven't tapped into it yet. So
I'd rather be a little aggressive than passive aggressive.
Yeah, exactly, right. And Hansen is a guy who's recently started training. He was like, dude, after training, I just feel so zen. It's like, I just feel so chill.
Absolutely.
You know, it's that chill feeling after training that, it's one of the benefits of training, you know?
if you guys ever go, like you've never done jiu-jitsu, just go to the end of a class and look at the students on the floor. It's this weird point where physical fatigue meets mental fatigue. And it's like the apex of those two things. And those people are the most chilled out people on a planet. Yeah. You compare a person that just finished a jiu-jitsu workout to a person that just finished a yoga workout, I promise you the person that just finished jiu-jitsu is probably more zen out. They're just like at this deep place of like, their mind is clear because they've just been working their mind so hard.
Yep.
Their body is exhausted. They're completely relaxed.
Yep.
They're dripping in sweat. They just had a great workout. Jiu-jitsu special. You know what absolutely. I mean? There's no reset in your day like a jiu-jitsu practice.
Yeah.
You know, it really just, it gets you right where you need it.
There's so many benefits, like, and moving your body every day. I was thinking about this on the drive here. Like, moving your body every day is something I mean, a lot of people don't do. They don't move their body. And jiu-jitsu, if you don't do anything else, like jiu-jitsu will help because moving your body every day, you're moving those emotions and stuff. And you're getting a workout in, you're getting fitter. I mean, there's no downside to it. I mean, the biggest thing, I think we should touch on this real quick, is most people I'd speak to who don't train, they see the benefits. They know that it's a good thing for their personality, for their character development, but they're just so worried about injuries that they don't step on the mat. So what would you say to those people?
You know, I saw a friend of ours actually posted something the other day, and it's like perfect. Devin Kelly posted this, and it's great. He says, injury reveals weakness. And I think that's so true. You know what I mean? Like, we talked about like jiu-jitsu being honest earlier. So maybe you go into jiu-jitsu and all of a sudden you're like, my elbow kind of hurts after this. My back hurts. Something's not right.
Yeah.
Well, now maybe you need to look a little deeper. Maybe you need to start doing some strength training. Maybe you need to do some mobility training. Maybe there's more other ways you need to be taking care of yourself. You know what I mean? Something we talk about often is people, like what you said, they're scared to get hurt. But you're also going to get hurt by being sedentary. Like if I spend all day in a desk, my back's going to start hurting me after a while. I'm going to get a really weak back. You know what I mean? It's like if I don't do anything physical in my life, I'm also going to get hurt. I'm going to get weak. I'd rather be strong, you know? So like, I'm not going to, like, there's no one's had a perfect jiu-jitsu experience where they never got an injury. But it's like how you learn how to deal with that stuff and it makes you a stronger person. I'll take that any day over not doing anything, you know? There's so much life to live, you know what I mean? And I don't want to like let something that small, it's a what if, you know what I mean? I can't let this what if of worry control me from living my life.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I'm just smiling because I'm like, man, this is like, he's dropping so much gold right now. It's like the black belt mindset right here. It's like awesome.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy because this has been my experience too, you know, like I've been hurt tons of times in jiu-jitsu over my years. So, you know, I've had broken ribs, unrelated. I've had a broken shoulder, you know, tons of sprains. I've broken my foot kickboxing, all this stuff, you know, like, but I never let any of that stuff stop me from trying to be the person I feel like I need to be. You know what I mean? So it's like, I have these obstacles get in the way. I've taken the wrong approach in fixing those injuries, definitely. And, you know, we talk about having a team, surrounding yourself with a team of people around you to help you get where you're trying to go, you know? And that's like, I always saw it in the perspective of jiu-jitsu, but for me, like, you know, I'm 36, I'm not getting any younger, and I want to still perform like a high-level athlete. So for me, that's mobility training, it's strength training. It's me having an open mind to be a student still and like talk to coaches on like getting myself better. Like I'm really blessed. I have like really great friends at Nirvana. I can always ask for help and they're great coaches. I mean, I like Dom, Nettie, you, Will, Johnson, Ian, like all these, like the list goes on and on. Devin, you know, it's like, it's this endless list of super high level coaches. And I could go ask all of them the same question, you know what I mean? And like at Ash has saved my life a million times, you know, and going to an osteopath, you know, going to a good massage therapist, you know, seeking help when I needed it. Just like that kid that needed help after the tournament and needed help picking himself back up and fixing his jiu-jitsu so you do better, you know? Jiu-jitsu's crazy, man. Yeah. So like people scared of getting hurt, you know, like, man, for like all those names I just mentioned, I met all those people through injuries, and they're like some of my best friends today.
Yeah.
If I never got injured on the mat, I would have never met any of those people, and they're like some of the most special people in my life.
Yeah.
You know, Like, man, like before I started Rituals, I came in, I had so many injuries. I had to take a break from training. 16 years committed to a sport. I had to take a break from training for like a good period of time. And like finding trainers I could trust to like help me put my body back together, that's amazing. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it was like how could I not? I don't know. It's like, so like, man, my body feels great now. Like, like I talked about my osteopath Ash. Like I went and saw him like a month ago. He goes, Justin, you have this like one nagging injury and that's it. When I saw you a year ago, you had like 10 of these and now you're like completely healthy, So it's like, I think again, that quote with Evan's like 100% right. Like injuries reveal your weakness, right? But it's up to you to fix it. So like, maybe the injury, like you said, like that deep-rooted question, like I'm scared of getting hurt. Well, maybe that's a deeper issue we kind of need to address. Why don't we come try some jiu-jitsu and see if we can unearth what that is and see how we can grow as a person together,
Yeah, absolutely. And jiu-jitsu reveals everything. It reveals, like you said, it reveals everything. So
jiu-jitsu doesn't lie.
You come to Rituals Jiu-Jitsu class, Justin will be able to tell everything about your life in one session, right? Like
I don't know, one session.
Not one session, but like, what I mean? Like they come like for a couple of weeks or something.
Yeah, we get to know each other. It's a process.
Yeah, you know what that person needs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can see everything.
I'm not a psychologist or any of that stuff, but like I'll help you where I can.
You're a jiu-jitsu psychologist.
Yeah, all right. I'm prescribing jiu-jitsu 2 to 3 times a week for you.
Yeah. So let's talk more about the trust aspect, because I think that's really huge, especially for people that don't train. Like, for example, when I didn't train and I saw like men rolling together, I was like, that's a bit homophobic, like from the outside looking in.
Yeah.
But what's the trust aspect between men on men and women with men and women with women? Like, how does trust play a massive role in jiu-jitsu?
Trust building a massive role in jiu-jitsu. I mean, it's huge. Let's put it this way. You're trusting someone right away to get in a very intimate space with you. You're trusting them to pull on your arms and legs and, see how mobile you are.
Yeah.
You're trusting someone to choke you and not choke you unconscious. You know what I mean? You're trusting this guy. He's going to put you in an arm bar. He's not going to break your arm. Like, that's a lot of, and that's on day one. That's your first day of class. You got to have that much trust for a stranger. But after that, you trust them a little bit more. And you're starting to trust jiu-jitsu because you've opened your mind and you made yourself vulnerable to this experience, That trust snowballs, like it just continues to build. We were talking about this a bit the other day. Like, I've been really blessed with my jiu-jitsu journey. I've worked with some really high-level athletes that compete internationally. I've helped athletes compete professionally in MMA, and like all this kind of stuff is all built around trust. Like they're trusting you to kind of guide them through whatever the experience is. So yeah, like outsider looking in, like you gotta take a look at what you're trying to be a part of. You gotta look at the community, seeing if their values line up with yours. And jiu-jitsu's part of that journey of jiu-jitsu is like learning to trust other people. Can't trust your coach, you're never going to learn anything. You know what I mean? If you're coming in and you're second guessing the stuff your coach is showing, you're second guessing the techniques that he tells you to try in class, you don't develop that trust, you're not going to grow. You're going to be stagnant in jiu-jitsu, you can't trust your teammate. You're not honest enough to ask for help in positions, being like, wow, you just sweep me with that. What was that? Can you show it to me? I want to see that move. Will you teach it to me? Like, you got to be honest with your partners and stuff like that, being enough to be like, wow, he beat me with that. I want to know how to do it, opposed to just being like, fuck, that guy got me. Fuck that guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And a lot of people have that mentality, so it's like, I think if you want to grow and learn jiu-jitsu and like grow as a person, those are some of the the perspective changes you need to make like really early on,
Yeah. I mean, but one can stay stuck in that though.
Absolutely.
You can stay stuck and be like, fuck these people. And then you just leave, right? Because those people, we've seen that happen. I've seen that happen. I'm not sure about you.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially over the years. And I'll tell you this, not every school is right for you. Sometimes your values don't line up with the coaches. Sometimes they don't line up with the culture of the club. And what I've found in my experience, the right people stay and the wrong people go. I'm not saying jiu-jitsu is wrong for them. I'm just saying maybe my gym's not right for you. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to discourage you on your journey. I just think that you need to find the right place for you, you know? And that happens, you know? And it's hard because people have expectations. Maybe they walk in the door with high expectations and they're like, you know, I'm going to be part of this team and this is going to be great. And I'm going to train here forever. And then they walk in and they just don't really get along with the people there, you know? And like, I've experienced this also, like, you know, again, like really crazy jiu-jitsu experience for me. Like I've trained jiu-jitsu all over the world. And sometimes I go drop into a gym and be like, man, this is not the place for me. I don't feel welcome here. Like they're great, but this is just not my environment. It's not my people or whatever, you know, and that's okay. You just got to kind of accept it for what it is, you know? And then I go to another gym and I find that place. And I'm like, whoa, this is perfect. They're really nice. We all seem to get along. We have stuff in common. You know, this is my vibe or whatever. The jiu-jitsu is great. Notice in like all this of me trying to find the right school, it's never once about the ability. You know, I think this is where a lot of people go wrong. They walk into these schools and they look at ability. They're chasing that power. They just want to be like as strong as they can, blah, blah, blah. And they forget to look at the people. It's like you need to look at the people you're learning from and like seeing if those are the people you want to surround yourself with.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's a big one because one of my friends, he was asking about your expertise and he never asked about the people that train here. He was just asking about you.
Yeah.
And he hasn't trained.
Yeah.
You know, like there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
And the people, for example, Chris, that he's a guy that if I was to tell someone who doesn't train why you should train, I'd probably use him as an example.
Absolutely.
Because I've seen him firsthand. Like his confidence is just, his whole life has changed because of jiu-jitsu. Like his literally his whole life. Like he was like really shy, reserved, timid when he first came in. By the way, Chris is a programmer, really good programmer, and he was training from pretty much day one, right?
Yep.
Yeah, when you opened, and then now it's just like it's just a different person for me. Like looking at him,
completely different person.
Yeah, he's like lost like what, like 50 80 pounds, and
he's lost close to 100 pounds. Or
yeah, and you know, it's like. You're wearing his shirt?
I was going to say, then you did it for me.
Shout out to Chris.
Hey, Chris. Thank you for the threads.
No, Justin bought the shirt for Chris.
Like Chris's journey special, right? First member of Rituals Jiu Jitsu when we opened the doors at Nirvana and like... throwing up off the side after class, you know, like, you know, overweight, but he loved it, you know, like he came in and he just had like a really good attitude, you know, and he wanted to be a part of it and he just kept showing up. And that's where so many people go wrong. They just don't show up, you know, like they get discouraged so quickly. And it's like, it blows my mind sometimes. I'm like, how are these people so successful in their lives, but they let something like this push them over so quickly? You know what I mean? And it happens, you know, but like Chris was just one of those guys that stuck with it. And like, we've seen so much change in him, you know? It wouldn't be Rituals without Chris, you know? Again, like first member, he's always there. He's always training. Great guy. Brings in a great energy. Beast also, you know,
like, he's very good.
He's very good at jiu-jitsu and like again, like when I kind of look at people learning jiu-jitsu, it's like, yeah, you're going to learn the jiu-jitsu skills, but it's like the self-improvement outside of it was just like with Chris was crazy. You know what I mean? Like we touched on, he lost all that weight. He moves so much different than he ever did before. He cares more about his health. He's always exercising. He's doing mobility training, doing strength training, changed his diet completely. Yeah, like his life is just great. Like I don't got to worry about Chris. You know what I mean? Like, like I know Chris has it together, and like that's the sort of people I want in my academy, leading by example. You know what I mean? Like I can look at my blue belts and stuff. Like I've only been open for a year, so I just have a handful of blue belts. But those are all guys that like lead by example so well. You know what I mean? And then we have like Lonnie. Lonnie's like my purple belt at the academy. She leads by example fantastically. You know what I mean? She like sets such a high standard for the other guys in the room. They have to meet Lonnie's level, you know? And those are the standards that like I think are so important in jiu-jitsu because that's what you guys are chasing after. Like when you guys start, it's hard to see the black belt. Black belt's 10 years, 8 to 10 years, depending on your commitment, right? Sometimes it's 12, 14 years, you know? But for you to look at the person in front of you in line that's a blue belt, well, that's more obtainable, right? That's more achievable. So it gives you a smaller gap to close. But at the same time, you're seeing those people change and grow. So all of a sudden you're like, well, maybe I need to be changing and growing a little bit too. And it's that culture, again, that's being created in the academy that kind of trickles down to the new people coming in. And that's like the magic, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And setting an example is very, very important. And just, you know, you mentioned earlier about successful people trying jiu-jitsu and then quitting. But actually, I'd argue that, you know, they're successful in one area, but there's multiple areas of life, right?
Absolutely.
So maybe they're, for example, maybe they're successful in their business, but in their relationships, they're doing the same thing as they do in jiu-jitsu. They date a new partner and they quit on them, and then maybe that habit's showing up somewhere else.
Yeah, that's
life,
true. You're right. That's very true.
And so, I mean, I see that with some people I know, mentioning no names. So, yeah, we've covered a bunch of things. You mentioned about how you were cornering fighters, and you touched on the trust there with the fighters. And the relationship that you're building. Like, for example, I want to talk about that because the relationship you and I have is probably like in the shortest time. I've only known you for like a year, but I've got a really deep relationship with you, and you know a lot about me. I know a lot about you, and I think that's been magnified because of jiu-jitsu.
Right.
Like if we just hung out like on a Saturday at the Forge,
Yep.
you know, like it wouldn't be that deep. But
shout out for the Forge.
It's like a sports bar here in Bali.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. Like, so the relationship building aspect of jiu-jitsu is huge for, let's say I'm an introvert and I don't like people. Well, I think I don't like people. And I go to jiu-jitsu and I meet all these people that are super nice to me. I'm like, holy shit, there are actually nice people in the world.
Yeah.
You know, and then I start keep going back to the class. Like that is going to really like help my life in a positive way. You know, I'm going to build solid relationships, and it's going to, you know, help me get stronger, faster, leaner, whatever.
Yeah.
So can you talk more about like the relationship aspect between like you and your students? How does that help things?
I mean, it's just kind of like relationships through life. You got to think like, we spend a lot of time with each other. You know what I mean? And like, people get like crazy obsessed with jiu-jitsu. You know, they come in, they're like, yeah, I'm going to try it. And then like 3 weeks later, I'm coming every day. You know, it's like, it takes over, and then they're really involved, you know? And again, it's like building that trust. Like we talked about the initial trust, like day one. All right, I got to trust this guy. He's not going to hurt me. He's not like, he's going to choke me, but he's going to let go, like all that sort of stuff. But now it's like, now I'm also trusting that person for me to share that I'm feeling frustrated and I'm feeling vulnerable and I'm feeling this way in these positions, you know? And yeah, it just kind of keeps growing. So like we talked about competing as well, right? So it's like, well, maybe I'm going to trust you a little bit more now. Like, all right, I trust you enough in class. You guided me this far. You've taken me this far. So I'm going to trust you a little bit more. Let's go do a competition together. So, well, we live in Bali, so that means we got to get on an airplane and fly somewhere together. So now we're going on a trip together. Now we get to that place, and now I'm going to trust you to guide me through wrestling some person I didn't even know that's been training for X amount of time, taking it super seriously to get ready to wrestle me. That's going to take a little bit more trust. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then, you know, you go and you have that experience. Win, lose, or draw, you feel supported, and you feel like your team was with you. And yeah, and then after that, you can trust that person a little bit more. You know, it's like you went through an experience with them. You endured stress with them. You overcame adversity with that person. You know, we persevered through this experience. Now, I've had a couple lucky individuals where they wanted to take it a step further. They're like, well, I want to go fight MMA. Will you come corner me for MMA? It's like, oh, well, that's like a whole nother story.
What does corner mean?
Okay, so like a corner, so like let's say, if you've ever seen like Rocky, like the old boxing movie, it's like he's got Mick in his corner being like, keep your hands up, you know, like watch the left hook, you know, like all that sort of stuff. So like, so for MMA, like mixed martial arts, far less rules, right? Punch, kick, knee, elbow, you can throw the person on their head, and you can ground and pound them on the ground. There's submissions, there's chokes. So jiu-jitsu is an element of that, you know? So like, for me, like I was really attracted to MMA. I never fought MMA, but I got a chance to work with a couple professional fight teams, and like with these opportunities came chances to corner, right? So I'm traveling with these guys for like big shows, and I'd go to like a 1FC or I'd fly to America with them, or Australia, wherever. That's just a whole nother experience, because they're doing something much more dangerous, right? This is super violent now, and they're agreeing to lock themselves in a cage with another person that's seriously trying to hurt them. And all they have to support them outside of their skills and training is my voice, and maybe the voice of another. You know what I mean? So it's like you got your team of coaches in there. So now you're there, and it's like, well, shit, this person trusted me on a whole nother level. So like I need to make sure everything I'm showing them is like pristine. Like, I got to make sure that they're keeping their hands where they need to keep them. I need to make sure when they go for this move, they make sure their face is blocked or whatever, or that they're not going to get choked, and that there's sound in their escapes, and that they have good defense. And, like all these little skills that you kind of need to develop as you train. So like developing someone's trust through that experience is huge. And, to go there with them and experience that sort of stuff firsthand is like super valuable for me as a coach as well. You know what I mean? But a lot of those guys that I've gotten in the corner for MMA were still like great friends today. I could call them anytime and they're going to answer the phone, even if we don't live in the same country anymore, because we developed that deep level of trust with each other. Again, like I didn't ever look at that level of trust that I developed with them as part of the deal. You know what I mean? Like I just wanted to learn some cool moves. My involvement for jiu-jitsu was like much different. My perspective of what brought me in and stuff. But it's made like friends for life, like brothers and sisters that I have all over the world that trust me. You know what I mean? It's because we've worked through some hard times together, or we worked through these fights together, and I'm like blessed, really blessed to have those experiences with those people. Still have some really great relationships with them today.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah,
it's really cool to have that experience, right? Like,
yeah,
it must be exhilarating and also stressful at the same time. I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's so eye-opening. Like, there's one thing to like learn jiu-jitsu in the gym, and then like you can like watch on YouTube and learn jiu-jitsu or something like that. Go to a seminar and learn jiu-jitsu. But like learning jiu-jitsu firsthand is like a completely different experience, So it's like me being the only thing better than competing is being in the corner. You know what I mean? So like I may be spectating, but I'm in like the best seat in the house to spectate. So I can see really clearly any mistakes that are made. So when I go back to the drawing board with that fighter, like maybe they won, but they made some mistakes. Now I got to adjust my way of teaching, right? I got to make sure as a coach that they're prepared to move forward for their next one. So it's like, you came up out of that half guard situation and you took a big knee as you got back to your feet. Is that on them or is that on me? Did they do my technique perfectly? And did I have a mistake in the way I had them positioned? So now I got to adjust everything for them so they feel safe next time they fight. I don't want to break that trust. So I'm doing my best job to make sure that they feel prepared when they fight. It's cool.
Wow, that's super detailed.
Yeah.
Like even if they win, you're still going back and like looking at what they failed at.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And part that's like as a coach, one of the funnest things for me. Like Alani Srivash is another athlete of mine that I've had a chance to work with really closely over the last 2 years, and we were doing a jiu-jitsu tournament like every month. We're traveling around, and like she had a lot of success, but I would look for areas that she needed to improve on, like grow her strengths, but also work on her weaknesses, right? Like we got to cover all areas to make sure that athlete's prepared, because jiu-jitsu is crazy. You never know when you got to change things up. You know what I mean? So it could be in a moment that we got to completely change strategies and tactics in those moments, But yeah, it's like we keep tying it back into life. It's just like life, we always want to work on our strong suits, but there's some other sides of ourselves that we need to work on as well. We have to look at our weak points as humans and like understand that we're human and we're not perfect, and just always try to make ourselves better where we can.
And jiu-jitsu helps with that, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, yeah, I've some things about my character I was not aware of before. Like there's one that's glaringly obvious, which is so I was trying to get the arm bar, like there's in a move in jiu-jitsu, it's like trying to get an arm bar, but the guy was doing a good job of holding his elbows close to his chest, his arms were in, but the arm bar wasn't there. But I was still trying. I was like trying, and then you said to me, "You got tunnel vision, dude. Like that avenue is blocked. Like you got to do something else, go somewhere else, take another route to get to somewhere else. Another submission. There are other submissions, but you're just like tunnel vision, like focus on this one thing. And I realized that in my business, I was doing the same thing. Like I was just focusing on this one thing. It has to work. It has to work. But it wasn't working. But I was still trying to make it work.
Yeah.
I think that awareness was really helpful for my life. Just to see, oh wow, damn, I'm doing that in this area, and that in my relationships as well. Like other areas of my life.
Yeah.
So it's making me more well-rounded, I guess.
Yeah, more self-aware and stuff, more willing to accept the situation, like all those things. Yeah. I think all of us people, we have those things that are like those roadblocks on whatever it is in life that we struggle to let go. But acceptance is huge.
Yeah.
Just accept that you don't have the arm bar. See, that's like when we were talking about the ego on the mat and stuff. It's like I remove the value of the position of the arm bar. It's not so stressful anymore. It's like, yeah, this could end the match, but let's not look at it that way. You know what I mean? Let's just like, I'm stuck, and how am I going to get out? You know what I mean? But if I look like, he's about to get me, that's the wrong perspective, right? Like I can't just sit there and be like, I'm going to fight this with everything I got and not let go. It's like, well, that's like jiu-jitsu in a nutshell. Jiu-jitsu is all like an art of going around things, like using proper leverage and like finding the path of least resistance. So if I'm resisting 100% trying to get out of something, well, I'm missing the point of jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean? I'm going to try to find the path of least resistance to get me out.
That's cool insight. I'm learning things as we're talking. It's pretty cool. Yeah, like the path of least resistance. So like just accepting that you are, and that's a big thing, right? Acceptance.
Yeah.
Like a lot of us, myself included, don't like to accept certain things about myself too. Like like. For example, I broke my nose in jiu-jitsu. But that was my fault. But I didn't want to accept that until like a few weeks later. Like I spoke to you, and you were like, "Yeah, this was the move that you did, and you did this, and you should have done this." And I was like, "Oh yeah, that's my fault." I was just blaming the other guy. I was like, "It's his fault. He's too erratic."
Yeah.
Or he is.
We got really lucky because we had that on tape, so we could like sit there and break it down, and I could like show you what happened and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just like, it was really just like unfortunate and bad luck, you know, like, yeah.
Yeah. So I had to accept that.
That was reveal weakness.
Yeah, exactly. And that was a weakness in my game, and also partly like tunnel vision too as well. Like I had the tunnel vision of going for that one move, and I didn't execute it properly. And I got hurt, so that's my fault.
And it ties back into what we were just talking about. I'm like, all right, I said two students like hurt each other. Now, what did I show them wrong? What needed to be different in that situation? That's why after I sat down with both you guys to be like, look, this is what happened. This is what you need to do differently next time. And like, this is how we avoid these situations in the future. It's like, I got to clean up my side of the street too. Like if I make a mess,
true.
If I make a mess in my academy, I got to clean it up.
Yeah, that's true. So we touched on a lot of topics. There's only a couple more questions. So if a woman's watching this now, what would you say to them? Because for me personally, the reason I bring up women is because I say to every woman that I meet that I personally believe they should train jiu-jitsu.
Right.
Because a woman needs to know how to defend on her back.
Right.
Like that's something that shows up a lot. Like rape is very prevalent in the society, and if you don't know how to defend on your back, then you're pretty much screwed, right?
Right.
So what are your thoughts on jiu-jitsu for women?
I think it's great. So look, I've had a really unique experience training women jiu-jitsu. I've had 3 students that have really stuck out. One was Jess Frazier, who's my first black belt, fantastic coach, runs a huge women's organization in Australia called Australian Girls in Gi. Tiffany Timebaum, who's a world champion kickboxer. I helped her get ready for a couple MMA fights. Lonnie Stribosh, another one, like up and coming young kids, super committed to jiu-jitsu, trains 3 times a day, is competing internationally. And these are some of like my most like decorated athletes as well, have been women. And like, if you would have told me that when I started jiu-jitsu, day one, be like, hey man, one day you're going to be you'll be successful as a coach, but your most successful athletes will all be women. It's like, It's been pretty interesting. You know what I mean? That was kind of like what happened. But it's very empowering for women. Again, like we talked about path of least resistance a second ago. Jiu-jitsu is all about not using strength to beat the other person, or using leverage or using pressure using good strategy. Like all these are kind of skills that women can learn. From what I've heard from like women in the community, the women that have been like comfortable enough to open up to me about like sexual abuse in their past and stuff like that, jiu-jitsu can be a really great tool to kind of help you get comfortable again around people like touching you and stuff like that. Also, that struggle of like someone kind of like attacking you in like a simulated kind of thing, but you got to be prepared for that. You know, you got to make sure you have the right support around you if that's the route you want to go, where you're going to get comfortable again after having like some of those situations happen to you. But I've seen a lot of women that have shared those experiences with me tell them how it helped them build the confidence to kind of pick themselves back up again. And that's super powerful. Yep. You know what I mean? Yeah, jiu-jitsu is a confidence builder. Like before anything else, martial arts builds confidence. You know what I mean? It like shows you can do something maybe you didn't have the confidence to do. You know, some people, we talked about that person, the gardener. You know what I mean? Like the person that's a lover, not a fighter. Maybe they just don't have the self-confidence to know that they can protect themselves. You know what I mean? And sometimes that's what it is. They build that confidence up, and now I'm in a position where I feel like I can defend myself. You know what I mean? And to see people that have maybe lost their self-confidence and use jiu-jitsu as a tool to help them bring themselves back up is super powerful. Now, for other women, it's like, again, something's attracting you to martial arts where it's like opening your mind to it. You know what I mean? The close proximity thing can sometimes be an issue. People sweating on you is another issue. But I loved it because like I had a woman come in the other day and she's like, "What's no gi?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's like the gi practice, but we just wear shorts and a t-shirt and wrestle there, but it's a lot more sweaty." And she goes, "If someone mugs me on the street, I don't get to choose if they're sweaty or not, Justin." And I'm like, "You're gonna be all right. You're gonna make it through." You know, like jiu-jitsu's right for you. You know. Yeah. Again, it's that perspective. You know what I mean? But yeah, like super empowering for women. I love seeing women get involved in jiu-jitsu. And when you see them get enough skill where their skill is higher than the other person's strength, and they can just always conquer the strength, it's such a beautiful thing to watch. You know, it's like you want to see, you want to know that like when those women go out there that they feel safe, you know? The other thing too is just like the right community environment, like women coming in and like being surrounded by a bunch of men that treat her like brothers. You know what I mean? That brother mentality I think is really important. Like we want to make women feel like they're part of the team. We're not going to necessarily treat you any differently because you're a woman. We just want you on the mats with us. You know what I mean? Yep. And like, I know for me, some of the most fun classes that I've ever had are when there's a lot of women on the mat as well. They just bring in that feminine energy. We want that in there with us. You know what I mean? Yep. We all have more fun together. Yeah, I'm super supportive of women training. I think it's a great thing. And yeah, I'm always happy to have the girls on the mats with me. It's great.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah. And I second everything you said there because women, yeah, it's a very sensitive subject and it builds that trust. Like you said, on the first class, you got to trust your partner. And for a lot of women, they don't want to train with a guy because maybe they've had past traumas or whatever. Right. But yeah, like you said, that community that you're building so greatly is really going to help them be comfortable in that situation and really like transform their life because, you know, if they've had that trauma and they're scared of like a guy touching them, they come to train jiu-jitsu, they're going to overcome that fear and now they're going to change their life, you know? Right. Yeah. So that's, yeah, like you said, super powerful. Yeah. You have started Rituals Jiu Jitsu in the back of Nirvana Strength here in Bali. So I guess, what are your plans moving forward for Rituals to share with everyone?
That's a good question. I love my team at Nirvana Strength. I think it's a great community, and I'd love to see that community continue to grow. I just want to see more people come in and continue to spread jiu-jitsu around Bali and Indonesia. I'm currently really trying to build more of an online presence for my classes too, so you can check out Rituals Jiu Jitsu YouTube channel. It's become aware to me that I can reach far more people if I have an online platform as well. So I'm really just trying to share more of my classes. So if jiu-jitsu is something that's interesting you, or maybe you want to see what we're doing here in the academy, you can't make it here yet. You know, that's a look inside of our academy and what we're doing and how we're training. Yeah, I'm just, you know, really trying to build a team that has, you know, a really great community and culture and And I'm pretty happy with that. I don't think I need it to be like too much bigger. You know, like, of course I want as many new people coming in as I can. I want to share jiu-jitsu with as many people as I can, but it's a pretty simple goal, I think, in a sense. It's like, let's just watch this community grow. Let's learn some jiu-jitsu together and have fun doing it, you know?
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. And do you have any parting advice for people watching? Any advice that you'd give?
Get out of your comfort zone. Go have an open mind and go train jiu-jitsu, you know? It's so crazy. Like, I've told so many people throughout my life, like, buy a gi and it'll change your life. And it's so true. You know what I mean? You go buy a gi, you get on the mat, you start training a little bit. Just watch your life change. And yeah, everything's gonna unfold in front of you just the way it was supposed to, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think martial arts is great. Get involved. Yeah, that's pretty much it, I guess.
Yeah. And adding to that, I would want to say the last sound bite from me is, you said something earlier about having brothers and sisters around the world, like friends of people. And that is something that I realized. I never thought that I would have that. But with jiu-jitsu, I now know people who are like from different corners of the globe. And we've all just met on the mats, and they go back to their own country, but we stay in contact. And now I have a friend in Spain. I got a friend in Brazil. You know, I've got a friend in Australia, and I wouldn't have had these friends if it wasn't for jiu-jitsu. So I think jiu-jitsu is helping someone improve their quality of their life and also get to know themselves deeper. I think that's what it provides. Of course, self-confidence, but yeah, really like character development, you know?
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, and I can see you're probably a much different person 16 years later than you were when you started training.
Absolutely.
And of course, as part of that's life, but a lot of it's due to your rituals, which you do, which is why you call it rituals. Actually, yeah. Why did you call it rituals?
Yeah, so I called my academy Rituals. So I've had a pretty transient life for the most part. Yep. You know what I mean? Like, especially in my 20s, I moved around a lot. Like, I lived in Thailand for a while, lived in Bali for a few years now. You know, I'd bounce around back to the US, you know, traveled a lot, doing seminars and stuff. So my life was constantly in change. But one thing stayed the same, which was jiu-jitsu. So it became my biggest ritual. You know what I mean? In my day-to-day routine, jiu-jitsu is always part of it, you know? And I think for a lot of people, it's about creating healthy daily rituals for yourself that are going to help you become the person that you want to be. Like, for me, rituals is more than just jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean? Rituals for me is waking up and meditating, going to the gym after class and lifting weights, doing mobility training, you know, being in contact with my team, you know, building my business now. So I have a platform to share my jiu-jitsu with people. It just kind of keeps growing more and more into different aspects of my life. And as long as I stay true to my rituals, I see improvement in those areas of my life. You know, and I want to, and these are the things that help me stay balanced. And even in my life, you know, like I think balance is something really important that we all seek. And as long as my life is in balance with good, healthy daily rituals, I feel like a better person. You know what I mean? I feel like the best version of me. You know, I talked earlier about my striving for excellence as a competitor. Like, I think what a competitor shaped me was seeking that excellence in my life. You know, so it's like I still, to this day, look at areas where I can improve. And for me, it's all come down to daily rituals.
Awesome. I love that. Yeah, that's amazing. And where can people find out more about you?
You guys can go to my website, ritualsjj.com, Instagram, ritualsjj. Come to Nirvana Strength. Come train with us if you're in Bali. I think that's pretty much it. YouTube. You can come check me out on YouTube. Rituals JJ. It's good. Good. Come learn some jiu-jitsu. Get involved. Aaron, thank you.
Thank you very much. You shared some knowledge bombs for everyone. I think you got to watch this twice if you're watching this. At least twice or 3 times, because some of the stuff he said is like high-level black belt secrets on how to have a better life. You know, like I'm all about like mindset. Like that's why I told you the first day. I was like, oh, I'm all about like the concepts and the perspective shifts that I need to make. Like, for example, you were talking about like if you're going for one move, that's going to open up space for another move. You got to be thinking about the next move, not the first one. Stuff like that, like little mindset shifts that help you. And jiu-jitsu's really helped my life. So thank you very much, Justin, because I went to a first class 5 years ago, and you're the guy that got me committed.
Awesome.
I mean, I made a decision, but you're the guy that like gave me a little nudge. You know, if you didn't ask me what I was doing at 9 a.m., I wouldn't have trained. Like I probably wouldn't have come.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
No
We all need people that can push us in the direction that is good for us, but we have a little resistance to, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Justin. And yeah, thank you very much. Cheers.
Thank you.